there fam, welcome back to my channel. So today I am just going to be formally introducing and telling you guys the story of this little one. This is not Rue, this is Rosie. Rosie is Rue's sister. So those of you guys that follow my Instagram have known about Rosie since I got her. She's actually not really a new bird anymore. I've had her for 3 months now. As you can see, sometimes Rosie is a lot calmer than Rue and Thistle. She's very, very sweet. And you guys who follow my Instagram already kind of know how she came to me. You guys know that Thistle and Rue were siblings. And when I got Thistle and Rue, Rosie was there too. They were all living together. So at the time, I just decided that getting 3 new birds at once would be just too much. Thistle and Rue were the most closely bonded. They loved each other and they always spent time together, and Rosie was a little bit left out. So I decided to only take Thistle and Rue because they were super close with each other, and Rosie wasn't really close with either of them. Of course, I still didn't want to separate them, and I always kind of thought that maybe I should take Rosie too. But in the end, I decided that I just couldn't get 3 birds at once. So there's a picture of all 3 together at their previous home. And then I also have a picture of Thistle and Rosie together. You can see that Thistle is the darker green one, and Rosie is kind of a little bit more olivey, yellowish green, a little bit lighter too. So I always kind of thought about Rosie and wondered how she was doing. And then Thistle passed away. Some of you guys have probably had the experience of when one of your birds loses another bird that they're very close with. And it was just very clear that Rue wasn't doing well. I wasn't going to keep her alone, so I don't want to make this a sad video, but Rue, she called for Thistle a lot. She chirped at night, in the middle of the night when all the other birds were sleeping. And it was just really hard to see. She even started to go after the other birds a little bit out of frustration that they just wouldn't interact with her the same way another seer or parakeet would. So then about a month after Thistle passed away, I messaged the person who had the Sierras and asked if they still had Rosie and if Rosie was still looking for a home. And so Rosie was still there. She was still in need of a home. She had been there for about 5 months with little interaction, and I knew I had to bring her home. Rosie and Rue, obviously they knew each other, so I wasn't really worried about them not getting along. She's so sweet. And Rosie is very people-oriented. She loves people more than other birds, although she does love her sister Rue. So when I brought Rosie home, even though she was already disease tested, I still did the 30-day quarantine. And then I introduced her to Rue. So Rosie had not seen another bird for 5 months, and when she first saw Rue, there was some aggression, there was some chasing. Now Sierras, their beaks are not sharp at all, they're very small, so they can't really do damage to each other. There was nothing like that. She just kind of needed a refresher on how to be around other birds, but this resolved itself quickly, and within a week, Rosie and Rue were getting along well. It was really interesting for me to see the whole process of how they kind of reacquainted themselves with each other. After that initial period of Rosie chasing Rue, they started to get really still. And that was interesting. They were just checking each other out and just watching each other. And the Sierra parakeets are super active birds. They're really never still. But when they first were kind of checking each other out, they just kind of sat in the same place and watched each other. And then this was really rewarding to see, was just when they started to chirp at each other and communicate. And they have all sorts of different little chirps. And they started to do this very loud, quick chatter at each other. And then just to see them get comfortable enough to preen near each other and to be comfortable around each other. And then just to share a millet spray and be able to eat together. Then the first time they actually showed interest in preening each other was when both of them had had a bath, and I was trying to get them to be, to be in that relaxed state where they preen after a bath. And Rosie tried to preen Rue, but Rue just wasn't so sure yet. The first time they did preen each other was when I decided to put them in the cage together at night. And I didn't want them to actually sleep together. I just wanted to see how they would react with the lights off. Because Thistle and Rue, every night they would just cuddle together, snuggle right next to each other. And I wanted to see if Rosie and Rue would do that. And they did. And they preened each other for the first time. And that was just amazing. And then after that, they were really comfortable being together. They would preen each other more during the day. And then another week went by and I had their cages both next to each other. I moved Rue's cage into my room where Rosie's cage was. So their two cages were next to each other for another week, and then I was comfortable to move them in the same cage once they were able to just get along perfectly in the same space and be able to share food, eat from the same bowl. They still have two bowls in there in case. So Rosie and Rue are still not as close as Thistle and Rue were. Rosie, she prefers people over other birds. Hopefully she will get close enough with Rue where she'll be able to spend time with her, even if I'm in the room, because right now, if I'm in the room, all she wants to do is be on me the entire time if she's out of the cage. Rosie just needs a little bit of work to be more independent and learn how to play on her own when she's out of the cage. And Rosie will play with Rue wonderfully inside the cage, or when I'm not in the room. They will preen each other and play together, you know, shred the same toy together. Look at that wing stretch. She loves to land on my head. She loves to just follow me all around. Despite what it might look like, Sierra parakeets are actually a tiny bit smaller than Budgies. They have very floofy feathers that make them look bigger, and they have long tails, but both of my Sierras weigh just about 30 grams, and my Budgies weigh about 35. Rosie is extremely good at recall. She'll do it without a treat. Rosie and Rue can be really difficult to tell apart, but one of the easier ways to tell them apart is to look at their beaks. As you can see, Rosie has a little dark spot on the tip of her beak that Rue does not have. So here's Rosie with a little dark tip on her beak, and then there's Rue. Rosie, and Rue. Alright guys, so that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think Rosie appreciates it too. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram and TikTok, check out my website, elleandthebirds.com for my kits, and I will see you guys in my next video.